Hi, I'm Rachel Beck. Today I want to focus on a Q2 question, which is unusual because they're harder to do because I have to show you the whole text. And you get a cold reading and then it might have a little bit of instructions about the relationship between two people, but what it's typically going to ask you to do is to make an argument using the author's literary device. So whether that's setting or characterization or dialogue, you have to make an argument about this, which is more difficult because you don't have the background knowledge that you have in the Q3 questions, which is why I would focus on preparation more with the Q3 question because you have more control over it. And if you watch my videos, which I have like 5 hours on The Great Gatsby, Catcher in the Rye, Their Eyes Are Watching God, you're going to get a lot and a lot of different ideas of how to approach it. But up into the AP test, I'm going to try to make as many videos as possible. So if you like it, please like it. And then if you want to subscribe, you can see when the next one is coming out. And I'll probably also try to do one on poetry. But the main thing is to get those Q3 questions because that, at least you can use your novel. And between those three I gave you and some other ones I've been doing, you'll see that you'll have enough to answer whatever prompt they throw your way. So I'm going to use Hard Times, and I'll put the link below for the last Hard Times video. I go a lot more in depth answering a Q3 question. So I'm not going to go in depth with this one. I just want to show you a text and a closing, not a closing, but like a thesis, which I will call a claim. Calling it a claim because you want to actually claim something. If you don't claim something, you're not going to argue. You're going to basically state the obvious, which is a way of summary. And that's not what we want you to do. The highest level score is going to be persuasive. So you have to make some kind of argument. Based on what you have in the text, you have to make some inferences, and this is where your background knowledge will help you. Especially if you can see that this particular text was Charles Dickens, so we're talking about 19th century. It's also helpful to know what themes, thematically, what were people talking about in the 19th century? What was Dickens talking about? And if you're interested, I go into that in my last video, which will be linked below. Okay, so let me pull up Coketown. This is in Hard Times. And so let's say you had this question about sometimes the setting could be used as a character. In this case, how would the setting be used to show what Dickens is trying to convey in this novel? I'm just making this up, but something like that. Coketown, to which Messrs. Bunderby and Grime now walked, was a triumphant of fact. It had no greater taint of fancy in it than Mrs. Grime herself. Let us strike the key note, Coketown, before pursuing our tune. It was a town of red brick, or of brick that would have been red if the smoke and the ashes had allowed it. But as matters stood, it was a town of unnatural red and black, like a painted face of a savage. It was a town of machinery and tall chimneys, out of which interminable serpents of smoke trailed themselves forever and ever, and never got uncoiled. It had a black canal in it, and a river that ran purple with ill-smelling dye, and vast piles of building full of windows where there was rattling and a trembling all day long, and where the piston and the steam engine worked monotonously up and down like the head of an elephant in a state of melancholy madness. It contained several large streets, all very one like one another, and many small streets still more like one another, inhabited by people equally like one another, who all went in and out at the same hours and the same sound upon the same pavement to do the same work, and to whom every day was the same as yesterday and tomorrow, and every year the counterpart of the last and the next. Okay, so now, hopefully, I'm sure you have read something that is a dystopian novel. And the giveaway of dystopian is the word choices like monotonous, the same street, the people did the same thing on the same pavement. That's a giveaway. So you know what you're dealing with. What you may not know that you have to figure out, and this is where your background knowledge really comes in handy, is what it is. Okay, question for dystopian. What is he criticizing? If you can figure out what the author is criticizing, you can figure out a claim. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to worry about just being right. What would happen to a person who's like every single day, and you did a task, so you worked in a factory, which is what this sounds like, right? 19th century factories. You want to get to the Industrial Revolution. That is something you want to always remember, because authors hate the Industrial Revolution. They love nature. Tolkien hates it. So when you see something like this, and you'll see in the next paragraph, not the next one, but somewhere in there, it's going to talk about how useful the town is. All right, so it's good for somebody, but it's not good for the people. Okay, so you have this Industrial Revolution, as you know, is going to be the overarching theme. And now you need to be able to talk about the words that he uses, the associations of these words, the smoke that trails out like a serpent but never gets uncoiled. You notice how nothing ever changes. And there is no, it's a colorless world, which is also another giveaway. When you see something that, or maybe it's almost too perfect, maybe it's a utopian. You're going to be using all those words to describe what's happening with the people. And what is happening with the people? If you break down the words that have this sense of monotony and sameness, it's oppressive, right? So you want to get there to where you can make some kind of argument about if this is a character, then this character is a tyrant. So everything was fact between the lying in hospital and the cemetery, and what you couldn't state in figures or show to be purchasable in the cheapest market and sellable in the dearest was not and never should be world without end. Amen. And the irony of the amen, that alone you could do something with that in your essay. Especially when you go back to something like a church being just a warehouse. If people actually went, they probably didn't go because they didn't have, these people didn't have time for leisure. And that's kind of the point of the book, is what happens to people when there's nothing joyful in their life, when everything is just work. And even then, the complaint there was that even people spent their entire lives working, they still couldn't feed themselves and take care of themselves. So, all right, if I had to make a claim on this very quickly, and first I'm going to show you what a bad claim is, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so Dickens' descriptions of the setting of Coketown works as a character, driving the dystopian theme. Okay, why this is bad is if you think about how you're going to support this what are you going to say that is going to be an argument? I mean, the text, the question may have even told you that it's going to be, like, the setting can be a character. So coming up with that isn't really coming up with anything new. You need to take it a step further and think, okay, so what does that mean? I mean, what is the critique of the Industrial Revolution? And then that should get you to something like this. Dickens' setting to hard times works as an antagonizing, oppressive tyrant. So now I'm describing this character, not just saying that it is a character, but what kind of character? He's a villain. The setting is a villain. Now that's an argument, because we don't know that for sure that that's what Dickens wanted, but that's what I'm going to say. And I'm going to support that by making a lot of inferences about what the conditions do to the human soul. So, antagonizing, oppressive tyrant, leading by the monotony of the Industrial Revolution. And then this is a very good thing to learn when you're writing a sentence, like a claim or a thesis. Notice I repeat the word. That's a repeat word modifier. What's nice about this is, one thing, it's an easy style to learn. So, you know, you want to have a variety of style in your sentences, but it pushes you to keep going, keep analyzing. What about the revolution? So what? You know, keep asking yourself, so what? So what? A revolution that is dystopic and bleak, revolutionizing the human spirit into meaningless, colorless automatons. So there you have it. Now I can use this claim to talk about the text, but I'm talking about it in the way that I want to support how it's maybe useful in terms of material things, but in terms of humanity, it's a dystopian place. And nothing good can come out of that, because other things are going to come up, and Dickens is sure to cover that. So that's it for now, and next time I'll look at a Q3 question. If you have any questions about books that you're reading, if I've read them or if my husband's read them, we'll try to do a video for you. So just leave that in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to get notified when the next video is going to come out. And of course, if you want to take my courses, I left the link below. All right, thank you.